The Space Race. A technological battle between the Soviet Union and the United States of America, which was ultimately won by the Americans when Neil Armstrong was the first man to set foot on the moon. And the rocket that brought him there was the mighty Saturn V rocket, an absolutely gargantuan rocket standing taller than the Statue of Liberty and producing almost 7 million pounds of thrust at launch, and even launching America's first space station, Skylab, into orbit. But the Soviets did have a counterpart to the American Saturn V, the massive N-1 rocket. It was originally designed by Sergei Korolev, the lead Soviet rocket scientist, and it was designed for interplanetary flybys of Venus and Mars. But then in 1964, the Kremlin decided to try to beat the American challenge to land on the moon by the end of the decade. Unfortunately, the problem with a lunar mission using the original N-1 design was that a mission to land on the moon requires more delta V than an interplanetary flyby, or, in simpler terms, it wasn't big enough. So, the Soviets decided to add more thrust to the first stage, but they could not make the engines bigger because of something called thrust chamber instability. And when this happens, it can destroy the entire engine. The Americans had solved this with the F-1 engine, but the Soviets had not. So what the Soviets did was add 30 engines to the first stage. And this is a lot, and it's going to cause problems later. The first test went nominally into ignition, where a couple seconds before launch one engine shut down. That caused the parallel engine on the other side to shut down to keep symmetry. But after 68 seconds in flight, the vibrations caused by this disturbance started a fire, and then all engines shut down, causing it to crash in the Kazakh desert. The second test was probably the most spectacular. The rocket lifted off, and then at 200 meters in altitude, the onboard computer system, CORD, caused all engines to shut down except one. This caused the rocket to twist and fall to the side, where it then abruptly hit the launch pad, causing the largest non-nuclear explosion in history. This flight went nominally until 39 seconds after launch. The rocket started to roll out of control before being destroyed by aerodynamic stresses. The fourth and final launch of the N-1 rocket occurred November 23, 1972. The start and liftoff went nominally. Then, at T+90 second, the 6-core engine shut down, but this caused a fire leading to launch abort. The Soviets denied that the N-1 had ever existed until 1992 when the Soviet Union collapsed, where then all information about the N-1 was declassified.